China's disturbing life swap reality show. I don't know what it is, bro, but these like Chinese commentators, they're always just talking about the most crazy shows or the most crazy beauty trends and things to happen. And I really want to, dive into these topics a little more because they interest me. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and let's get it.
Imagine if you get to swap lives with one person of your choice for 7 days. Maybe you live the life of a luxury celebrity, or even better, the son of a Chinese millionaire who gets an allowance of a property a month. But there's a catch. After the 7 days, prepare to have your entire life ruined.
What?
This is one of China's most disturbing reality shows ever produced, Metamorphosis. And trust me, for a lot of these participants,
I'm gonna keep it a buck. It would probably suck to be on a show like this, but man, it would be entertaining as hell to watch.
the only thing that transformed was their trauma. Back in 2006, Hunan TV launched a brand new life swap show called Metamorphosis, and it immediately blew up. The concept was simple. Take one teenager from a rich city family and take another teenager from a poor rural village. Swap their lives for 7
Oh yeah, hell yeah, bro. They poor. What you mean? If you're rich as hell, I'm gonna be running up that card too. I'm gonna be indulging in the finer things because if he gotta go back to his regular life, hell yeah, I'm gonna enjoy that shit. What do you mean?
days and see what happens. The rich kids were spoiled, yelled at their parents, and didn't attend school. The show was supposed to show these rich city kids what hardship really looked like.
This reminds me of the show where, the bad kids in like London, where they're like really bad and world's strictest parents. That's what it's called. And they get shipped off to strict parents in like other countries like Jamaica and like America in like rural America and shit. And like they're like, I want to smoke. And they're like, no, you're not gonna be smoking here. And they like sneak off to go smoke. And then like by the time they come back, all their shit is like in a river or something. That's what this reminds me of, bro. And you already know when the poor kids go to the rich environment, like, oh my God, they're so well behaved. Yeah, because these rich kids are spoon fed by their parents. They don't really get to live, they don't face any real hardship and they don't get real parenting, bro, because the parents make money. They gotta go work.
Meanwhile, the poor rural kids would get to experience city life, broaden their horizons, and get motivated to chase bigger dreams. Pretty inspirational. At least that's what everyone watching at home thought. Because the deeper you dig into this rabbit hole, the weirder it gets. Former contestants started exposing the producers for threatening and kidnapping them. They even said that they were being manipulated behind the cameras, and these people that they were supposedly helping, instead, when they went back home, it completely ruined their life. But how did it even come to this? I mean, at first, it was actually like a wholesome and educational program. The very first episode aired and it ended up becoming viral. It paired a teenager named Wei Cheng from the city of Changsha and a rural boy named Gao Jianxi from a poor village. Now, these two couldn't have been more different if you tried. Wei Cheng constantly skipped school. Most of his days were spent inside internet cafes instead of paying attention in class. He had a comfortable life in the city, but he completely took it for granted. Then there's Gao, and this kid lived in an incredibly poor village. Unlike Wei Cheng, his dream wasn't becoming famous or making tons of money. All Gao wanted was just a regular education so that he could escape poverty. And right away,
oh my God, bro, you could already feel that. Damn. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say I was spoon-fed. I definitely had a lot of hardship. Not me being in a village type of hardship, but man, like you could see like people who live a good life, they oftentimes strive for their dreams, whereas people who are in the gutter, they just trying to exist.
See how good this pairing worked for the show. You have one kid with a bunch of opportunities, all wasted. Then the other kid would do anything to have the same opportunities.
Be careful what you wish for.
Cooking. Wei Cheng arrived at Gao's village, and the parents had to treat him as if he was their child for the week. And this is where the reality of the rural life.
Man, and that kid had no real skills because everything he had to do was facilitated by somebody else. Oh yeah, I would love to watch this.
Like a truck. Something as basic as getting water was not simple at all. They literally had to wait 3 hours for the water to seep back into the well so that they could fill the bucket to drink. Meanwhile, nowadays, people are losing their minds because their Molly tea is taking more than 5 minutes to make. I'm talking to you, Kevin. And one day, Gao's father pulled out a small bundle of crumpled bills. Just 20 yuan. Now, 20 yuan isn't a lot for the city, but to this family, it was years of saving. Wei Cheng immediately refused the money, but Gao's father would not take no for an answer. He looked at Wei Cheng and simply told him, "For these 7 days, you are my son." And Wei Cheng completely broke down because even later in his diary, he wrote that holding those 20 yuan felt like his heart was bleeding. And honestly, probably for the first time in his whole life, did he actually
imagine giving somebody that you don't even know your fucking last. And it's like, yeah, that's probably not a lot to you, But to them, that's everything, and they just gave that to you. Oh yeah, I would definitely feel some type of way, man.
Meanwhile, Gao was in the city living a completely different experience. He arrived in Changsha and immediately he looked like he was someone who just landed on a different planet. I mean, looking outside, there were towering buildings, crowded streets, everything
this was probably like a dream for him. I'm thinking about how I was raised and how like my parents were raised, and it's like, yeah, my mom had to get it out the dirt. Like she had to get it out the mud. I got it somewhat out the mud, but I wasn't like all the way in the trenches for real. You know what I mean? Like I still lived a good, like the first half of my life, I would say was pretty rough, but then like the second half was like just chill. You know what I mean? It was like pretty chill. So it's like, it's just crazy to think like the perspective of just having nothing.
So different compared to the small village he grew up in. And the scene that made this show go viral was during Gao's first car ride into the city.
Man.
He looked outside the window and just started crying.
Because he made it out.
This really hit netizens in the feels because Gao has never seen anything like this.
Man, getting his hair shampooed.
Even know these things existed. And the contrast between these two lives were so massive that audiences could not stop tearing up. By the end of the week, Wei Chung was a completely different person. He voluntarily worked on a farm just to earn 20 yuan so he could repay Gao's father. He also kneeled down in front of Gao's parents and thanked them for everything that they'd done for him. And people absolutely ate this up because it became one of the greatest redemption arcs that people had ever seen. Just like that, Metamorphosis became one of the biggest reality shows in all of China.
Damn.
But here's the thing. Once the show became successful, it turned into the exact same formula. The city kid would always be this rebellious, spoiled teenager. They'd swap lives, get dropped into the countryside, and start complaining, breaking things.
Look, it's a formula. You gotta, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Meanwhile, the poor rural kid was almost always portrayed the exact same way. Hardworking, polite, and extremely poor, like to the point where they didn't even know what a shopping mall was. And by the end, the rich city kid would become grateful and the poor rural kid would be inspired to chase bigger dreams.
I mean, is it really relatable? Think about it like this, right? The majority of people that are probably watching this are not gonna be rich or well off. They're probably gonna be either somewhere in the middle or closer to the bottom, right? It's just not relatable if the rich kid is just this humble guy that's just good at everything and he had a perfect upbringing and he's respectful and he can work really hard. No, that doesn't pull the heartstrings. You can be like, yo, this kid is just too fucking perfect. Get this dweeb out my face.
This first season came out, it really was an educational program. Like the transformations were completely real. Nothing was really faked. But people started noticing something that didn't quite add up. You're telling me that years of bad parenting, family problems, and behavioral issues were all solved in just 7 days because the kid carried a bucket of water up a mountain? Something fell off, and eventually people realized that they've been watching the most evil and manipulative show in all of China.
Oh my God.
Because the biggest controversy of Metamorphosis came during season 7. They paired two kids whose lives were extremely different compared to the other seasons. On one side, you had the rich, spoiled city kid, Shin, and on the other, the poor rural kid, Wang. Let's start with Shin first, because this guy was known as the most difficult protagonist to change in the history of Metamorphosis.
No way.
Like already you could tell what they're doing. They're building a villain. Shin was 16 years old when he joined the show, and he already dropped out of school. Like, he constantly smoked, partied, and went clubbing. Whenever he ran out of money, he would just sneak into his mother's meetings when she was busy and just steal cash from her bag.
That's crazy.
He would also constantly threaten.
See, that's how you know she got money, because if you can consistently do that without getting put out the house or without it being dire, that's how you know they got bread, bro.
To sell one of his kidneys if his mother didn't give him money.
What?
Now that's definitely one way to negotiate an allowance. His mother owned a hotel, and they belonged in China's upper class of private business owners. Like, it's almost impressive how good of a contestant he is for the show. But when Shin first heard about Metamorphosis, he didn't see it as some educational, life-changing experience.
He was trying to become famous, right?
Grateful. Usually, it's the parents who send the kids to the show. But Shin volunteered for it. His first thought wasn't, maybe this will make me a better person. It was, if I go on this show, won't I become a celebrity? He told his mother.
See? I knew it. A lot of those kids are narcissistic, bro.
That studying was pointless, okay? It's useless. What a waste of time, right? He summed fame up into 4 words. Easy, entertaining, makes money, and gets worshipped. And this slowly foreshadowed how he approached the swap. Meanwhile, the girl he was swapping with, Wang, her entire family earned less than $1,000 in an entire year. Because while Shin was living life on easy mode, Wong had one of the saddest backstories in the entirety of the show. She lived in a tiny house made of mud in Shaanxi province, and her parents divorced very early on when she was only 3. And instead of growing up with them, she lived with their 70-year-old grandmother and her paralyzed uncle.
Wow.
That was her world, and their daily meals consisted of whatever they could grow that day, either beans or potatoes. And every day it was just survival, day after day. But Wong was incredibly smart and hardworking. She did all the chores by herself, cooked meals, washed clothes, and even looked after...
Damn, hold on. Whoa, look at this. She's cooking in the same place, literally right by her paralyzed uncle. They don't have room for anything. The eggs are here. Man, what a life. I'm going to be honest. If you live in... Bro, I live in America. If you live in a first world country, bro, I'm so blessed. I know America got its issues. Shit, we don't got healthcare here. Cost of living is high. But I'm not doing this.
Meals, washed clothes, and even looked after her paralyzed uncle. Whenever food was served, she'd quietly give her uncle bigger portions while she just ate less herself. That's the kind of kid she was. Her family genuinely believed that this opportunity would help her, like maybe she'd experience something she'd never seen before, broaden her horizons, and come back with more confidence. Unfortunately, it turned out way worse than expected.
What?
And real quick, you know what's wild? The show has been running for years, and somehow the people producing it didn't have to answer anyone. And that's kind of terrifying when you think about it, because how much power gets handed to people who technically shouldn't have any? There's a reason why you don't let unqualified people make decisions that'll affect the rest of your life. Just like why there's a reason why Morgan and Morgan...
I knew it.
That's he's free. Thank you, Morgan. Was right when he arrived in this video, and let's get back into it. But first, let's go back to Shin's side of the swap, because right when he arrived at the village where Wong lived, her family treated him like an absolute gem. They gave him their best room and even spent days preparing a welcome meal for him using one of the chickens in their farm, which is probably one of the nicest meals that they could ever afford. And Shin's response? He looked at the food,
said, nah.
Sorry, if I eat too much, I'm gonna get fat. The
room is... Nah, I'm not gonna lie. Do you know how fucked up of a person you gotta be to do some shit like that? Bro, I'm gonna be real. If I knew, like, the conditions, like, sitting in those conditions, bro, you're gonna eat that damn food. That is so ungrateful.
Not being read. Instead of talking with the family, Shin basically wandered around like a tourist. He started writing random things on the ground and started chasing bugs with a broom because he was bored.
Who's gonna do the chores?
Then after just a few hours, he immediately went to the director and said, can we stop filming? Over the next day, he had exactly one goal. Go home. Like, this man didn't care about changing it. Like, he just wanted it out. Like, he already regretted it in the first 2 hours. I mean, what is this guy even doing here? He literally just starts emoting on them. He kept sleeping in. He continued smoking. Although now he had to settle for cheaper cigarettes because he didn't have any money. I'm surprised that wasn't life-changing. I mean, he was trying to escape and literally fell off the hill and almost obliterated the grandma too. So maybe that was life-changing. Someone asked him what he'd learned so far.
Nothing.
He said, I was born into a pretty good family, which is probably the most self-aware thing that he'd said in this entire episode. And what happened next is where things started getting really weird.
Bro, see, this is... I don't want to be the one to say it, but, like, imagine if he got whoopings as a kid. Like, imagine if he really got disciplined as a child instead of being spoon-fed and handed everything. Because the reason why he feels like he could do all this is because immunity. He knows that his parents are going to look out for him. He knows that he's not going to actually get in trouble. Kids like these, bro, they have to suffer, like, actual consequences. Like, they actually got to get stung by life and deal with the consequences, bro.
The production team decided to just take matters into their own hands. Shin wasn't giving them enough drama. I mean, sure, he complained, he wanted to go home, but
surprised
that
they aired
wasn't
this.
enough if you wanted a viral episode. But then we arrive at the scene that became one of the most famous moments in all of Metamorphosis. The furniture smashing incident. Shin was asked to wash somebody's hair.
No, bro. Don't tell me he broke their furniture.
Because that was one of Wong's responsibilities whenever she was home. He gets annoyed, starts throwing a tantrum, and then just starts breaking and smashing chairs, tables, and everything. And netizens were like, wow, this kid is completely out of control. He needs to be taught.
Damn, bro. So the paralyzed uncle was just laying there. His heart was probably in his ass as this shit was going down. You know how fucked up you gotta be to do something like that? That's insane.
A lesson. Except, that's not actually what happened.
I hope the show... Oh, it was scripted? I was about to say, I hope the show reimburses these people, bro.
Because according to Shin, he just casually said that he didn't want to wash someone's hair. Nothing dramatic. And that's when multiple crew members surrounded him and started threatening him.
What?
They kept saying things like, if you don't wash your hair, you're never going home.
What?
You'll die surrounded by these mountains. Then when it was time to eat, they told him he wasn't allowed to have any food because he wasn't behaving. And if he did start eating, they would either lock him in the cabin or just take the car and leave. I mean, he was pretty much being held captive here. So eventually, he snapped and he started breaking things like smashing furniture. And this is exactly the explosive scene the producers want.
They tried to push him into doing that shit. Wow.
Convenient, isn't it? Because now the show had a dramatic turning
and then they can edit it and make him look even worse. Wow.
Point. Oh no, he destroyed the family furniture. Oh well, I guess now he has to earn money to replace everything he broke.
Man.
See how that perfectly fits the narrative? Behind the scenes, whenever the production team wanted him to look like a villain, they would constantly provoke him, bully him, irritate him. But whenever they wanted him to look redeemed, they would be so supportive, like, let's go, Shin, you're amazing, we're so supportive of you. So after breaking all of that furniture, they kept threatening him. So he had to go search for work to earn enough money to replace.
Yeah, this is how you get this kid. Nah, I like this. Hold on. I don't even think the show was wrong for that. Is that an unpopular opinion? That's how you get a spoiled fucking brat to do what the fuck they supposed to do. You supposed to fucking bully them?
And almost magically, a coal miner happened to be hiring. It's almost like the redemption arc came to him. So Shin ends up working at the coal mine, and he uses all the money he earned to replace the furniture that he had broke. He sincerely apologizes to Wong's family and actually starts being respectful, like talking to them and helping around the house. For once, he starts showing respect. Alright, roll the emotional piano music. The rich kid has finally turned a new leaf. And Nessens, of course, they absolutely hated him. Yep. They flooded the comments talking about how incredible his transformation was. How inspiring it was. Absolutely beautiful.
The whole time it was fake as shit.
But after the show ended, Shin actually came out exposing even more about the producers. Turns out the scenes where he constantly demanded money from his mother weren't as straightforward as the viewers believed. The producers actually gave him 1,000 yuan every time he stole cash from his mom. These guys weren't just documenting a spoiled teenager, okay? They were directing one.
Yeah, they were
consequences
incentivizing.
Obviously don't disappear when the filming ends, because unlike actors, these kids still had to go back to their original lives with—
And then probably imagine coming back from the show and everybody thinks you a spoiled fucking brat. Well, actually, no, you coming back with a redemption arc, so people would probably like him more, huh?
The reputation that the show had created for them. Ironically, all this controversy worked in Shin's favor. His arrogant image became his personal brand, and he started getting millions of followers. And he also bragged that he got—
No way, the method worked?
For girls now, because he could confirm that he was rich through the show. No, trust me, babe, I'm rich. Did you watch episode 7? Shin just openly said the show hadn't changed him at all. But you know who it did change? The poor rural girl he swapped with. Unlike Shin, who entered the show already rich—
Oh, so she probably became rich, huh?
Wong entered a completely different universe. The moment she arrived in the city, she was treated like royalty. Shin's mother treated her like a princess. There's a huge party awaiting for her and a massive cake that she'd probably never even seen before. She started attending school in the city and even stayed in a super nice dorm with her classmates. They welcomed her, shared snacks with her, and just made her feel included, and it was honestly really wholesome. She ate steak every dinner and posed for these luxury photo shoots. I mean, you could literally see her princess dream coming to life. But then, things started changing really quickly, because only a few days in, the show claimed Wong had undergone her own transformation. Except, it wasn't the transformation that her family had hoped for. She slowly started treating everyone's kindness as something she deserved. She started making her friends—
Within a week? That doesn't even sound realistic, because she knows that she's going to go back home, right? That doesn't even sound real.
Bring her food. She began using large amounts of shower gel to wash her hands, her feet, and just everything, which is considered a big waste. But you know what won't be a waste? Cheeky soap. So grab it still you all can. They still have solo leveling and Chainsaw Man going on. Use code WANI to support your boy. Links in the description. Thanks. She also expected classmates to fold her blankets and also forced people to comb her hair for her. She suddenly developed what Chinese netizens called princess syndrome.
That's crazy that they would make her be bad though, because I don't think that she did that on her own. Like that sounds like the show probably pushed her to do that shit. Because there's no way you're just gonna waste that in such a short amount of time. Like if anything, if you're broke and you know you're going back to a broke village, wouldn't you want to save the shampoo for your paralyzed uncle and your family? Wouldn't you want to save clothes and towels and things for them? That doesn't even make sense. And blankets.
And then came the foot washing incident. Wong had started blackmailing a boy from her class and threatened that she would get him suspended if he didn't wash her feet every single morning.
Oh my God,
this aired, the internet absolutely exploded. She got flamed and people just hated this girl. She went from being introduced as this hard-working rural little girl to suddenly becoming one of the most disliked participants in the entire history of Metamorphosis. Netizens called her spoiled, ungrateful, entitled. But guys, this is still a kid, okay? She's not an influencer chasing a Playboy millionaire. Imagine spending your whole life surviving and then somebody comes in and gives you everything that you've never had. Of course, a child is going to enjoy that. I mean, she's a kid. But then the camera stopped rolling, and this is where the reality eventually set in because the show was over. She had to go home.
Back home,
Not back to the mansion or the shopping malls. Back to reality. And coming back to her village was far from a happy ending. I mean, it was emotional. She spent the whole week living in a comfortable home, taking warm showers, making friends.
Yeah, I'd be pissed as fuck. You probably don't get. She probably had her own personal space. She was eating good food. Now she got to go back, do all the chores, take care of people. That's probably her first time getting to actually feel like a kid. Because in a lot of these circumstances, bro, even the way that I grew up, like if you grow up in any type of struggle, bro, like your childhood kind of gets stripped from you. You don't have like full free reign to be a kid all the time. And with her, she's having to take care of people. So kiss that shit goodbye. So now she's gonna have to come back.
Having to worry about starving for the night. And then just one day, pack your bags, everyone. Season's over. Let's go home. And you're dropped right back into the exact same life that you left. Except now, you know what you're missing. And that's probably the coolest thing about this entire show.
I didn't even think about it like that.
There's actually a quote that netizens kept using to sum up the rural kid's perspective of this entire show. I could have endured the darkness if I had never seen the sun. Wong started keeping some of the luxury habits that she picked up in the city. Things like using shower gel. But they didn't have any in the village. So you know what she did? She asked her grandmother to walk nearly 100 kilometers just to get some. And then...
How long is that? What? How many miles is 100 kilometers? Dog! She had to walk 62 miles? Oh, nah. That's fucked up. See, nobody in my family would have did that. It would have been, we got soap at home.
Essen saw this and immediately went, see, this kid is spoiled. Look, see, they aren't any different from the city kids. They're just as bad. And unfortunately, the criticisms just kept getting worse because she actually started asking her grandmother if she could somehow contact the Shin family again. She wanted to go back to see them and go back to the life that she had just experienced.
Man.
But of course, the season's over. And eventually Shin's family stopped responding to her and they even blocked her. It's honestly heartbreaking seeing this. Because after the episode aired, she became one of the most hated kids in the entire history of the show. But then years later...
I wonder what she's up to right now. See, I feel like if anybody was in this situation, it would suck. But after a certain amount of time, that shit would light a different fire in you. There's no way you would be able to sit in this cramped house so far removed from the city. You know what you're missing out on. You know you're missing out on actual good hygiene, good health care, good food, good life experiences, probably AC. As soon as you get a taste of it, you're gonna want more. So she probably became driven and grinded so hard and got her family to that point.
Later, her uncle came forward and the story completely changed. According to him, a lot of Wong's princess behavior wasn't naturally happening at all. It had been manipulated and manifested into her personality by the producers.
Wow.
That infamous foot washing scene, you know, the scene that pretty much destroyed her entire reputation. Her uncle claimed that Wong had actually been asleep and the crew woke her up and instructed her to ask a classmate to wash her feet. So, she did. Maybe going to a...
That's a little weird, I'm gonna be honest. Whoever came up with that idea, they're a little weird.
Trusted adult isn't so trustworthy after all.
Wow.
And after the episode aired, people in her own village started gossiping about her. Neighbors pointed fingers and people whispered behind her back about the Wong family. And as she got older, the anxiety became so overwhelming that she rarely wanted to leave the home. She became terrified that people would recognize her. And eventually her uncle had to make the decision to move her to another town so that she could focus on studying.
Damn.
But after everything and developing this so-called princess syndrome,
yeah, no kid is supposed to live like that, bro, with that level of anxiety.
Still took care of her paralyzed uncle. But nobody online cared anymore, because once netizens decide you're the villain, good luck changing their minds. Her uncle said that he deeply regretted letting her participate in the show. He said that what had been advertised as an educational opportunity had ultimately become a game for the rich. Which perfectly sums up the entire show, because I mean, the rich kids, they get to make all the mistakes they want and people start applauding them.
Yeah, because they're already coming from the bottom. You're already in a situation where you're the fucked up kid and you have a redemption arc and you come out of it, and then you become the good kid. And even if you don't change, you're still that bratty rich kid. You're still rich. What are they gonna say? Whereas if you were humble, it's like, oh, you fumbled this opportunity. How could you even do this? Like, I don't know, bro. This shit is crazy.
Clapping when they become slightly less annoying. Meanwhile, the rural kid has to be perfect.
Yeah, and then there's probably some kids in the rural area that probably would have wished to have that opportunity. So when they see you waste all this shit and waste that opportunity, then they looking at you like, what are you doing? Like if I was in this scenario, I wouldn't be wasting that hair gel. I would have brought it home for everybody else. How are you going to be selfish and you couldn't even break bread with everybody else? And in Asian cultures, specifically like Korea, bro, like the villages be like this. Like they are really tapped in. Like they have a thing in Korea because it's so competitive in like the academic and the job world, where they literally pick one kid from their village to be the one to make it out, and they all collectively make a certain amount of money, and they pull that into that kid's education so that they perform well enough to feed the village. And if they don't, then they get hit with all of this shame and ridicule, and there's so much pressure. That's why the suicide rate is so high in Korea. And I'm assuming, I could be wrong, that it's kind of almost similar in a lot of these Asian countries, that it's like, it's very communal. So imagine how close and intimate it is, especially in a rural area, like, bro.
Perfect from beginning to end. If they show even a little bit of selfishness, they're fried. Almost every major city participant walked away with millions of followers on Douyin and Weibo. Do you guys remember the influencer Abby from a couple videos ago? Yeah, she was in the show. And we all know what mess she ended up in. Lee Hong-yi was also a city kid during the 9th season, and he is now a famous actor and influencer with millions of followers after debuting in the show. And during a live stream, he
low-key glowed the fuck up too. He looks like a K-pop star, bro. Oh my god.
With millions of followers after debuting in the show. And during a live stream, he actually exposed the producers and openly talked about the show. They forced the city kids to start breaking things and said that they didn't have to pay for any of it. And if there wasn't enough conflict, they'd intimidate them or threaten them to make more. Now compare that to the poor rural participants. They just quietly disappeared. All of them went back home to their original life, constantly hoping that they could go back to their city family. A lot of them ended up working in factories just to get by every day. On a good note, if you remember Gao, the rural kid from the first season who was crying after looking out the window, he was considered the only kid in the entire show who made it out with a better future.
Oh,
ironic,
wow.
because that season is the only season that the producers didn't interfere with. Gao actually left the mountains and successfully entered Hunan Normal University, where he studied military defense.
Oh, wow.
Since then, the show has been cancelled due to the controversy, and ultimately, the city kids were made to become famous, while the rural kids were exploited.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I can imagine that though. I think that's just because of resources. Because when you come back, if you rich, you got a phone, you got internet, you got a name, you got connections, you got opportunities. You know what I'm saying? And then if you're like a broke kid in a rural area, you don't got none of that. You're just a kid in a random village. Who's going to really give a fuck about you? Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love making these videos and bringing you guys along with me in this wild journey. I see your feedback, I read all of your comments, and I just want to thank you for sticking with me.
Yeah, this was a good ass video. I mean, this show sounds insane. It says the rich kids know the struggle is only temporary. The poor kids realize their struggle is forever. Damn, absolutely cruel how the showrunners didn't put any system in place to save/make life better for the rural kids despite making money off them. Pathetic. Honestly, bro, yeah, it would have been cool if they like would have paid up their rent for like a year in the city, or like, you know, help get them in school or something. I don't know, bro, but it is what it is. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'm out.